Hello everyone, my name is Jen and welcome to the Book Refuge and welcome to a video that I am so excited to make. This was a video that was put into my book rec form. I don't have a name written down for this one, but when I saw this pop up I was like, yeah, I definitely need to make this. I've made like parts of this video mixed with other things, which you can tell this is an oddly specific recommendation for language barrier. And so when I have done, I did a video not too long ago that had disability rep for speechless, blind, and deaf characters. And so this is kind of like a mixture of, I do have some where it is deaf or mute characters, but also ones where like there's just a communication barrier because we don't speak the same language, we're not from the same planet, or we're not from the same time period, if that makes sense. So this is just going to be a mishmash of all of them. I will go through this pretty quickly. This won't be a super like deep dive into each one of these, but these are all books that I have really enjoyed, and I will start with the ones that it is because of like muteness or deafness, because I've talked about those ones quite a few times, so I won't spend as much time, and then we'll dive into some other ones that are language barriers in ways maybe you haven't thought about, which could be really good. So we're going to start with the book that I said I just filmed another video back to back. I am finding reasons to put this book in like every video that I do because I just love it so much. But that is When the Earl Met His Match. I won't go into a full explanation of this book again because I have done it on like 4 of the last videos I've talked about. But this one, our heroine is pregnant by someone else. She needs sanctuary. Through some interesting turns of events, she ends up at the doorstep of the future Earl of Albury, and he happens to be a mute man. He has always been mute. He does speaks or use sign language, and our heroine in the beginning doesn't know any of that, but the ways that they find to communicate are so beautiful, and he's very patient with helping her, and she's very eager to learn to communicate with him without any barriers at all. And I just think that's such a beautiful way to watch their relationship develop, because they find ways to communicate and they're both willing to kind of meet each other at the middle. And I think Stacey Reid did that with elegance and beauty in this book. And that's why it's a 6-star read and I fucking love it. So there we go. All right, then I also have, this one is Never Seduce a Scot. This is also a book I talk about all the time. Our heroine goes deaf when she is about 13. There's an accident when she's horse riding. She gets hurt. She then has a fever and severe illness, and she then can't speak. And in this case, because this is like medieval Scotland that this is taking place, she is seen as being touched in the head because they don't realize why she can't understand them when they're talking and she can't hear them. And she also doesn't try too hard to communicate because her being seen as touched keeps her from a abusive marriage, and so she just goes with it until the king wants peace between the Armstrongs and the Montgomerys, and he forces Graham Montgomery to marry Evelyn Armstrong, and he thinks that she's touched because that's what he's been told. And then he meets her and realizes that there is more going on here. This woman is not as touched as I've been led to believe, and I want to find out what's going on. And I think it's so beautiful seeing him learn what's going on and find a way to speak with her. In this one, it's mostly just like she has taught herself to read lips. There isn't really sign language used at all, but it's still like very powerful, and it's so beautiful how Graham sees how intelligent she is, and that he makes her feel safe enough to share the secret that she wouldn't even share with the people who love her the most. And I thought that is so special and beautiful. I just love it. All right, there is also Hush Darling by Avery Kingston. This one is great. This one is a modern contemporary romance with a little bit of dark themes. The like inciting incident and the ending incident of this are dark, but for the most part, this is just a forced proximity, kind of a snowed-in scenario of getting to know each other. But it starts off with, like, our heroine. It is very much shown that she is in a marriage with a mafia man, and she has just discovered that she's pregnant, and she is not going to let her and her baby stay in that scenario. And so what does she do? She, like, fakes her death and runs away. And on her way to run away, she ends up kind of caught in a snowstorm. And then we have our hero, who is a very, like, broken, damaged hero. But he's deaf. It's him and his dog, and he owns these rental cabins, and he's able to run that without really having to, like, interact with the people too much. The small town he's near is actually very suspicious of him for reasons that I won't say, but they're very suspicious of him. And so him and his dog just, like, live in his house, and he discovers there's smoke coming from the chimney of one of his rental cabins, and he discovers this woman there, like, in his bathtub soaking, who had, like, broken because she needed a place to stay during this storm, and he offers her a safe haven while she rests. And then, you know, as some of her story starts to come out, he doesn't want her to ever leave, and I think it's very beautiful. But yes, he is deaf, and so what I also like, though, is because this one is a, like, modern times, like, he does have a lot of, you know, modern conveniences set up to make his house work and to make things work. So there are ways for them to communicate, which are really beautiful. Then there is, of course, Broken Whispers by Neva Altaj. We'll just touch on this one really quick. This is another one that I talk about all the time. But this is an arranged marriage between the Italians and the Russians. And Bianca is forced to marry a much older man. She's a ballerina, but her career is coming to an early end. And her father is forcing her into this marriage. Mikhail volunteers for this marriage because he's actually been a fan of her in ballet and doesn't want her married to any of his, like, Bratva brothers. He would just hate that. But he is actually a single father, and she is actually mute from an accident that happened. And she has also been very, like, mistreated by her father for quite a while now. And Mikhail, like, brings her in, and he actually knows sign language for a reason that he, like, keeps a secret for a while. So there's a little bit of deception with that. But his reason for keeping it a secret, like, it's really beautiful reveal when it happens. So I love this one. This hero is so accepting and kind. And this is a thing, too, of, like, this is a, like, forced marriage, but he very much is like, I'm not forcing anything on you. Like, you're safe in our home. You're safe here. And if you want anything else to happen, like, it's up to you. And we love it. We love to see it. We love to see it. And then the last one that I'm sharing with a mute or deaf heroine is Kingdom Fall by A. Zavarelli. And this one also has a heroine who there was an accident or something done to her where she can't speak. And she actually becomes a nanny for our hero, who is a part of the mafia. And he has a little boy who needs a nanny, and she is the person for the job. And this one, she's definitely there with ulterior motives, but the way that it all plays out it was really cool. I really enjoyed this one. I hadn't read an A. Zavarelli in a long time when I picked this one up, and I thought this one was really unique because, yeah, it has a single dad, but there's also a twist to this that I don't want to say. But, yeah, there's so many secrets about Kingdom Fall, but it has a mute heroine in it and a communication barrier that way. So there we go. Okay, now we're going to work through some that have miscommunication in other ways. The first one I just want to mention kind of quickly is one where they both can hear and they both can speak, but this is a historical romance where the hero has had a stroke. And so if you have ever seen anyone who has a stroke or have seen them have this kind of issue, they can think they are speaking one thing, but the way that it is, like, changed around in their brain, words and meanings of words have been changed around, and so when they speak, it just sounds like gibberish. And this book takes place during a time where, like, nobody knows what that means. So this man has been placed in a mental asylum, basically, and the crown may be taking away his title and passing it on to someone else unless they can prove that he is still sane and still in control of his faculties. And then we have our heroine, who is actually a Quaker. I haven't said the name of this, but I'm sure I put the picture up already. This is Flowers from the Storm. And our heroine actually knew him when he was his regular self and has thought very poorly of him. But when she sees him in this mental asylum, he immediately, like, connects with her, and so she gets asked to spend time with him because she helps calm him down. So this is one on the case where this book is extremely well loved. This is a very well written book. The story is so powerful. I loved this hero so much and the journey that he goes on. The heroine made me want to hurt her. I really didn't vibe with her at all, but that's just me, and I'm in the minority, so I really wanted to just throw this one in there because I think a lot of people will love this. This is a bit of an older historical that, again, it's very powerful. It's very good. I just, for the romance side of it, the swoony side of it, I didn't love the heroine, and that caused me some roadblocks. But you might not feel that way, so I'm still putting it in here. Okay, then we have a much beloved book with a language barrier that stays the whole time. So that's a bit controversial for some people, and they don't totally love that. But this book is something special, you guys. This book is something special. And that, of course, is Transcendence by Shea Savage. And this book also is told completely from the hero's point of view, who we will call Ed. And he starts this book off so sad and kind of just waiting to die because he's lost all of his clan. He's lost all of his people. It's just him in his prehistoric time. And yeah, he's living a very sad life. And then he comes across, we're going to say Beth, but it's said like Beth is the way that he's able to say it. And she has fallen into a trap that he had set for food, and he sees her as literally like an angel, that he caught a woman, and that could be seen as being lascivious in some cases, but to him, having a partner, having a friend, having another, human is life. On your own, you're doomed. There's no point in living, and now he has a mate. His mate is dressed very strangely and doesn't seem to understand how to survive. So he's very frustrated by that, but he sees her as such a complete gift that he has received that it's hard not to just fall head over heels for him and how he feels for her. And then we see them live out their time in this prehistoric time, and I won't spoil anything else about it, but this is a very special book, and it's very different. So there are both, there is an important, like, author's note in the beginning about, like, when verbal and nonverbal language were formed into, like, what we as humans have now, and how for, like, prehistoric peoples that isn't there, and so there would be, like, no hope of ever learning it. So it isn't just a case of, like, he's too dumb to do it. Literally, his brain is informed to be able to do it. This is a weird book to explain if you've never heard of this, but it's such a good book, and it's so beautiful, and it absolutely deserves to be read, even if you go into it and you're like, what's happening? Like, it's so good. It's so good. Then we have Demon from the Dark by Kresley Cole. I love this one so much. So this one has Caro Gray. I can't remember how to say her last name. But this one is, I don't know which one this is. Is this book like 8 or 9 in the series? And this one is during the period of the series where there is this place called, like, Torture Island is how it is lovingly referred to by fans. And there were a bunch of Lorians, which is the, supernatural creatures of this series, who had been contained and tortured. and they are able to, something happens, they're able to escape, and Malcolm Slain, he has been mistreated, and he was poisoned with vampire blood, or no, he's not, let me see. Of a demon outcast poisoned with vampire blood, yes. And the vulnerable young witch he vows to protect, even from himself. And so, anyway, Caro ends up in his hands, and he can't speak the same language as her. So this definitely has a kind of like caveman feel, because he has been so mistreated and hunted, and he is feral, but they are fated mates. So for him, like when he sees her, when he comes across her, he will protect her. He doesn't know why. He doesn't fully understand what's going on, but he knows that she's his and he needs to protect her. And she wants to get back to her people, and she realizes that if I have this big, scary demon on my side, I can manipulate him and use him to do what I need to help me. And that's definitely what she's going to try to do. But she also is having a tough time denying her attraction to him and all the tingly feelings that he is giving her. So, this is one I need to reread soon. I always reread Lothair and like Sweet Ruin, but I need to reread that one sometime because that's a good one. Then there is Fall by Claire Kent. This one also has a kind of caveman scenario. This is in this sci-fi series where there's all these different planets, and there are some like prison planets that people who have displeased the order of the universe get thrown onto. And we have a heroine get thrown onto this like caveman planet, and she gets kind of adopted into this clan and adopted by a certain caveman, and they can't really communicate with each other well, but she gets taught how to live there, and in exchange, you know, she becomes this guy's mate and is willing to, you know, sleep with him for protection and safety, and it's all the good things. Okay, it's good. That's a weird explanation for a series, but like Claire Kent does it, y'all. She finds a way to make it work. So Fall is a very good choice. Then, of course, we have the Devil's Mate series, or the Devil's Mate, the Spider's Mate series by Tiffany Roberts. So this is Ensnared. This is book 1 in the series where Ivy is in this, she is in this like ship with other humans that like crash lands on this planet, and they're supposed to be going on this adventure to, you know, see if like this planet is habitable. I don't know. I don't care about the sciencey stuff, right? And then we have Catan, who is a hunter who is trying to keep himself away from this spider queen who's trying to force him to be her mate because he is the strongest spider. But the male spiders are smaller than the female spiders, and if she gets her hands on him, she could literally rape him and force him to sire a brood with her, and it is horrible. It's so scary. But when he is hunting, he comes across the ship, and he sees that one of the cryo holds is like open, and there is this human, Ivy, inside, and he wants to protect her and help her and save her. And there is a huge miscommunication barrier between them. They don't speak the same languages. They can't understand each other. He's a huge, scary looking spider who, you know, may have hunky arms and all that jazz, but he's a fucking spider who is falling in love with her, and she's falling in love with him back. And I just love this series. Catan is one of my book boyfriends. Okay, don't judge me. He's perfection. And the audiobooks for these are coming soon, and I'm so happy about it. I also was able to order the Fae Crate, like beautiful copies of these, because I have to have all the pretty copies of Spider's Mate. They're just gorgeous. I love it so much. All right, then we have Seraph by Lily Mayne. I can't say too much about this one, but this is another scenario of someone who is very beastly looking and not being able to communicate with those around him, and he's been so mistreated that he's basically feral. And so Seraph is being kept in this cage outside of our compound that some of our survivors have been staying at. And this one is book like 6 in the series, so I don't want to spoil a lot, but we do have Lilac, who is one of the scavengers, and he has a soft spot for Lilac, and a soft spot for Seraph, and he's been looking out for him and watching him, and slowly they start to find a way to communicate, And there's some very interesting things surrounding why Seraph can't communicate and about what kind of monster he really is. This story will break your heart. It's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. And then the last one I have to share is kind of a mix between like a caveman and whatever, but it's actually a Tarzan retelling. And so we do end up learning the language. But this one is about Thorn, actually, who he was lost in the jungle when his parents were killed by poachers. His plane had went down and they had been living just fine, and then poachers found them and killed them, and he was taken away by the apes and raised with them. And now it's like 20, 30 years later, and Eden Matthews is a wilderness photographer, and she's supposed to be going on like this jungle adventure to take photos, and her group gets attacked by poachers, and Thorn swings in and saves her, kills the poachers, and he's keeping her safe. And also, it's someone who looks like me, where everyone else I've seen, they haven't. And very quickly, he's able to pick up speech and understand he does actually have a few like humans that he's interacted with before. He just has never like tried as much as he is for Eden. And it turns out there is some secrets about who Thorn really is and where he's from, and Eden is going to help him live those out. So I absolutely love this book. It's one of my favorites. It's so sweet. Like, it's just so sweet. It's so well done, and I love it so much. So highly, highly recommend this one if you love a language barrier or a Tarzan retelling. There you go. The audiobook has Shane East, who does the voice of Thorn, so think of that what you will. So there you go. Those are some recommendations for language barrier. Of course, there is also Ice Planet Barbarians. I know people are going to say that. I just didn't put those in here because I feel like a lot of people know about those ones. But yes, Ice Planet Barbarian also has language barrier in it. But yeah, please put other recommendations down below for some if you have them. There may be some that I just didn't choose to put in this one, or, you know, I wanted to put some over some others, but I would love to know what your recommendations are, and so would other viewers of this. So leave those down in the comments below. So thank you so much for watching, friends, and I'll see you next time. Bye.